Yeah, revolutionary greetings, comrades. It's a pleasure once again to meet you again in this usual Thursday class. It has become like our church. This class has become like our church, where people meet every Sunday for their own worship. We meet every Sunday for our own educational refreshment, enlightenment, and building our consciousness. And indeed, it's been productive. We've done this for over 2 years without fail, so it gives us some glory and some joy. And every day we come across our reading, it feels so refreshing, so challenging, and it has a lot indeed. So this is Consciousness Study Group, which is the philosophical and ideological study group, where we meet every week to study the philosophy and ideology for Pan-African liberation, unification, and development. It's called Consciousness, which is the philosophy for decolonizing Africa, written by Kwame Nkrumah himself. And he lay a lot of things that we've been coming across every time and again. Right from now, philosophy in retrospect, now we are at philosophy and society, studying the society and philosophy. And basically, we'll be looking at various philosophers. We've come away from Berkeley, Thales, Anaximander. We move all along until we met Socrates. We come all along until we met Plato, and now we are at Aristotle. It's a pleasure and an insightful and educative class for us. And I believe majority of us who have attended majority of our classes, even those who have attended few of our classes, can really attest to it that it's really worth philosophy and a water class for anybody to attend. So let's do our reading for today. And Sister Myra has indicated that she is committed. Brother Coco, if you're in a position, and permit me to recognize the presence of yourself, Brother Coco. Brother Kagemu, you might be a new comrade to our class. I'll give you an opportunity to share with us yourself, your name, introduce yourself and where you're joining us. Sister Gerotich, Sister Aida, Sister Chisomo, and Sister Myra. You see, sisters. So it's a balanced class today. The sisters are more than that. And as I confirm again. Again, first of all, feel most welcome and please introduce yourself to us if you are able. Again, or anybody know Kagemi can let us know. Comrade Kagemi, are you able to introduce yourself?
Hello, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, Kevin Kagemi from Mombasa, Kenya, and got this link from a group known as Beekeepers. I'm very much interested in consciousness, liberation, and unification of Africa. So I'm here to learn and get things from you so that I can grow in my knowledge. Thank you very much. Looking forward to a good discussion.
Karibu sana kaka. Welcome Kagemi. Myself is Pidgin. The host, I'm from Kenya, in Nairobi City. And we have also Sister Gerotich Kosgei from Kenya here. And we do have Brother Carrington Kimanji also from Kenya. So feel most welcome. A pleasure to see you joining us.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Karibu. Brother Koko, please read for us the text for today. I'll request you do one paragraph. Because two paragraphs sometimes are bringing issues. Let's do one paragraph, Brother Koko, first. Brother Koko?
Do you hear me well?
Now I can hear you. Welcome,
Okay.
sir, and the rest of the community. Brother Koko, proceed.
Yes, then. Aristotle did not, however, believe that each man was able to contribute to the truth. In this, he was reflecting in his thinking what was a social fact in Greece. To say that each man was able to contribute to the truth will require, at the social level, that each man should have political rights. To say that each man was equally able to contribute to the truth will require that To say that each man was equally able to contribute to the truth will require that each man should have equal political rights. The facts of Greek society were not in accord with this. The democracy of the Greeks was a democracy which was supported in the main by slave labor. Aristotle criticized neither the inequality of the sexes nor the exploitation of slave labor. He even thought that slavery was right, provided the slave was naturally inferior to his master. Such men, he said, were by nature not their own. He enjoined his fellow countrymen not to enslave Greeks, but only an inferior race with less spirit. Is that all? Or should I continue?
Okay, you should continue because I'm seeing the next paragraph is trying to be. Just continue the two paragraphs. Then you can have a contribution.
Okay, then. So, according to Aristotle, the state is not a mere aggregate of men, but a union of individuals bent on a common goal through cooperative action. It has for its purpose the pursuit of the highest good. Men, he however said, are not the same and do not perform the same functions in the pursuit of this common goal. At the same time, no man can by his single exertions bring about the highest good. The state is therefore founded upon an interdependence of men pursuing the same ultimate goal.
Thank you. The second paragraph actually talks about the state. So we'll start by concentrating our first paragraph on Aristotle conversation or thinking around men. So permit me to give some brief background on this. We are actually analyzing Aristotle's philosophy and its limitation. So part of what Aristotle puts here in terms of men and equality of men is part of his philosophy. So we are looking at Aristotle's view on democratic participation. How does Aristotle's concept of democracy differ from the modern understanding? We are also trying to answer questions like what limitations did he place on democratic participation? We're also looking at the role of the individual in society. So what is Aristotle's view on the individual's capacity to contribute to truth? And how does this relate to his ideas about social hierarchy and political rights? We're actually also looking at the problem of slavery. So why did Aristotle defend slavery? How does his justification of slavery contradict his ideas about the importance of human potential? We're looking at also the state and the pursuit of the good. Or what is Aristotle's conception of the state's role in achieving the highest goal or the highest good? How does he reconcile the idea of individual potential with the needs of the community? So how does Aristotle's philosophy reflect the social and political realities of his time? And probably if that still applies to this time, and what are the implications of his ideas for the contemporary society? And can we reconcile Aristotle's emphasis on reason and knowledge, which is defense of slavery? And how can we critique and challenge outdated philosophical ideas that continue to shape our worlds today? So basically, comrades, once again, welcome. All those which I've mentioned here are actually found on only these two paragraphs. That shows you the depth and intensity of this. So we are proceeding with Aristotle's view of society and men in a society. And in line with that, I'll read only a chapter up there a bit. The chapter before this, then I'll ask members to contribute their view to this paragraph. So I'll call your name and ask you to share your thinking. How do you understand the informal thinking on what has been read? That's what we do. If you are not in a position to share, you tell us to pass, then we go to the next person. But you always encourage every individual to share their thinking, because what we are sharing is your thinking. Your thinking can be right as per you, and nobody can refute your thinking. Together, we build a conscious community where we help each other build our thinking together. So the paragraph we ended with in last class reads as follows. Aristotle was a champion of some form of democracy. It's very important to underline the word some form of democracy. He connected democracy with knowledge by saying that the truth on any matter had several sides, which no single person could encompass in his individual gaze. Any individual could only grasp a portion, and it was through the collaboration of many that the whole truth was attained. On socio-political significance of this is the rejection of anarchism, the political extreme of individualism. And today, we start by the paragraph that has been highlighted, which reads, Aristotle did not, however, believe that each man was able to contribute to the truth. I want you to take time as I'm reading this to also try to reflect in each word in each sentence so that you can start forming your own thinking. In this, he was reflecting in his thinking what was a social fact in Greece. Social fact in Greece. To see that each man was able to contribute to the truth will require the social level that each man should have a political right. To say that each man was equally able to contribute to the truth will require that each man should have equal political right. The fact of Greek society were not in accord with this. The democracy of the Greek was a democracy which was supported in the main by slave labor. Aristotle criticized neither the inequality of the sexes nor the exploitation of the slave labor. He even thought that slavery was right, provided the slave was naturally inferior to his master. Naturally inferior to his master. Such men, he said, were by nature not their own. He enjoined his fellow countrymen not to enslave Greeks, but only an inferior race with less spirit, with less spirit. Very sad paragraph. So let me open the group so that I can go around and hear what others think in regards to this paragraph. If you want to connect with the paragraphs read previously, feel free to do so. On top of my list is Sister Ida. When I call your name to new members who have joined us, we ask you to share your understanding and then your thinking in regards to this and how do you see it. You can relate it to the current situation in Africa. You can draw some lessons you understand here, And what message do you get out of this? So from Sister Ida, the next in line, I'll go to a male, who will be Brother Coco. Then I'll go in that order again. So Sister Ida, I know you're laughing. Let's start with you.
I'm laughing. I thought, oh, wow. Okay, let me get on with this. I think that this explains why the Europeans like Aristotle so much, why they like Greek, why they always go on about Greek, the Greeks being like the founders of modern democracy and stuff like that, or that they knew about history, they were, brought education into Europe and stuff like that. But now it explains everything. It explains why they have such awful thoughts about the fact that not everybody is created equal. In fact, I don't know where the Americans managed to get that for their Declaration of Independence, because the Europeans were so that there were people, they went out of their way to get rid of so many people in the world because they thought they weren't equal, to enslave so many people. And this paragraph to me just explains why. And it explains to me the history of European thinking, that not everybody is equal, that not everybody is, that some people are below others, all that sort of nastiness. And it explains why even our education system sort of continually points in that direction, but we don't quite know where it's coming from or why these thoughts are being spread. What else can I say? And I take it all from this paragraph, the fact that Greek society was supported by slave labor, that that they didn't think people had, that they thought people were inferior to them, nor the exploitation of slave labor, that he thought that slavery, you're moving it, he thought that slavery was right, provided the slaves were inferior to their masters. I mean, where does he get all this from? So to me, this paragraph, in a way, is an eye-opener of where it all comes from. I can't see the second paragraph because I can't move my...
No, I don't want you to comment on the second paragraph. You want to stick to the first paragraph.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So that's all I can really say. That in a way, it's an eye-opener as to where people get these ideas from, because they always go back to Greece, and then they always talk about Aristotle, as if he's some god or other. And look at it. Look at what his god behavior is all about. So thank you. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Some element of idealism here. I know you've covered idealism in the past.
Yeah, well, he certainly doesn't believe that everybody really has a mind. So yes, yeah, what can I say?
And you believe that everybody doesn't have a mind?
Well, it looks like it. He thinks that some people, and I mean, you see this in the school system, how it, even the fact about people being prefects and meant to be looking after the rest of the pupils in their classes and stuff like that, and therefore they're slightly higher than all that sort of. You never know where it quite comes from, but look at this. I think it comes from here. So thank you. That's all I have to say.
I didn't feel offended having been prefect all my life from primary to university anyway.
What, you've been a prefect? Well, you see, then they've been encouraging you, they've been indoctrinating you, and you knew no difference.
No, I'm not indoctrinated. Okay, but Brother Kwame, welcome, Brother Kwame. Brother Kwame is our chair of this class, so feel free, Brother Kwame, anytime to put forth your thinking, say any message to the members, or explain anything else anytime. Brother Kwame, welcome. Let me go to Brother Coco. Brother Coco. Then from Brother Coco, I'll go to Sister Chisomo. Then from Sister Chisomo, I'll go to Brother Kageni, in that order. So let's start with Brother Coco. Brother Coco?
Yes. Thanks again, comrades. Again, I think Sister Ida has hit the nail on the head. Is the reason why they see the Greeks as the fathers of modern democracy. And not just fathers of modern democracy. Anything they want to talk about civilization in the West, they always point towards the Greeks. Because as you can see, what we are reading here, the Greeks were not aligned with democracy at all. They were not aligned. And this paragraph is as if I'm reading a mathematical formula. Because as a mathematician where I work, most of the logical functions which you have to put in a computer, for instance, in Excel, there are lots of if functions. And most of these paragraphs I see here are if functions. Like to say that each man was equally able to contribute to the truth will require that each man should have equal political rights. So once they said this, then what it means is that they had to back that with an action, but somehow they had to keep some of those to themselves. I think for those of you who have been here with us, is that we will have remembered where we had the debate about anarchism and egalitarianism. And what we did have in Africa, in Kemet, where the early Greek scholars had studied, was a pure form of egalitarianism, where there were no slaves. All men have had their rights. But what they had to do here was to ensure they denied the rights of certain people, so they could continue practicing the Greek practices in the way that they were doing it, backed by some of their scholars, like Aristotle now. But again, I think Sister Ida referred to education. Education, let's don't forget, is what Plato had introduced to say that there is a class system based on education. But here, Aristotle is mostly on the social structure, social breakdown in structure to ensure that there are levels, there are hierarchies. And the pure Greeks always had a position at the top. There was nobility. Nobility was guaranteed in a way. And that's why the church also found its way. The church found a way to stay at the top through philosophy such as what Aristotle was advancing. One of my cousins was asking me, he said, okay, what came first, politics or religion? And I said to him, religion is there as a pillar of politics. It provides that pillar which is necessary to sustain political class. And this is what you are seeing here. You see that as a basis of certain people at the bottom of the pyramid, they have to sustain certain people at the top of the pyramid. And certain people, because they have less spirit, have to be slaves, or because they are inferior to their masters. Yeah.
That on less spirit. What do you feel about it? What do you say about that?
Again, it says he's judging people based on the higher form. And even this higher form, he doesn't know how to explain it. What does spirit mean to him? It probably means he is someone who is, he's not a materialist in this case. he is looking at who has spirit. How do you judge who has a higher spirit, or who has more spirit and who has less spirit? You cannot judge that. But it also again brings the idea that they know some kind of divinity, or they possess some kind of divinity in order to judge who is inferior, who is superior, who has more spirit and who has less spirit. So again, they are talking about some of those things which are intangible, something which you cannot even use, which cannot stand. It doesn't have a leg to stand on to say, this is the reason why we have categorized the society. Because these people have less spirits, these people have more spirits.
So is this spirit thing more of a perception and idealism in one way or the other?
Yes, it's more of an idealist nature. He is then again pandering to idealism, going more on the Plato theory or Plato philosophy, where they were using divinity to say everything else what was divine was the real thing on the other side, and everything which we are seeing on this side, the world we live in, we're just the images of what we are seeing in the divine world. So there is that element of that here, even though I know Brother Kwame explained that Aristotle was different from Plato, but you can still see the influence of Plato here, in that he is using spirits, idealism, to divide people, to divide the society. So just again, before I close, is that let's not forget the Greek society, because they practiced slavery, will have had more slaves than the normal citizens. And for the citizens to continue to exert control over their slaves, they had to have some form of philosophy to ensure that happens. And again, that is still in the Bible. It's still in the Bible. Slaves, obey your masters. Is the same thing. Not forget, religion is that pillar which ensures that we stay obedient to a minority of nobility.
So, okay, Brother Coco,
Go
before
ahead.
you yield, basically, why do you think Nkrumah decided to bring this to us in this chapter? Actually, in this paragraph, of course, just to remind members, this is Nkrumah writing, not his thinking. He's writing on what was going on in society and what Aristotle was all about. So whatever is written here is not what Nkrumah thought or think is right, but Nkrumah was actually describing that society as it was.
Yes.
So that we can learn out of it. But Brother Koko, why do you think, why do you think when Nkrumah decided to bring this specific chapter here, what message did you want us to get from here?
Let's not forget the way Nkrumah writes. Nkrumah he writes like a true researcher. He does the research. He comes up with the facts and put the facts there before he makes his own conclusion. He doesn't make a conclusion and then go looking for the facts to back up his conclusion or the theory he has already formed. He puts it here so you understand how it works, and you can judge the democracy which was practiced by the Greeks. And then if you know what the Africans practice, if you know what egalitarianism is about, then you are able to compare the two. You know that under egalitarianism, every man is born equal. Everybody is equal. There are no slaves. But here, you can tell they are talking about democracy, yet they have slaves. You cannot say one man, one vote, or every man has a right, yet you keep slaves. That's not egalitarianism. That's no democracy. But for the Western world, that to them it sufficed. It sort of hid their own naked racism, in which the serfs were serfs, the Lord was a Lord. But I think what they did was they ameliorated their own system and had a sort of made it formal. They formalized their own system based on what they learned from the Greeks.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Welcome, Brother Carrington has just joined us. Brother Kwame is with us in and out. One Africa Identity, please, if you can put your name. I know I'm not disrespecting anyone. Welcome, of course, Brother Prince from Executive Director KNI, and also Sir WHK. I know he's asking what was the barometer to measure the spirit. So this is the conversation you're continuing with. So, Brother Kwame, as I've said, feel free to join anytime. I know you are on transit, so you might be on and off, but feel free to join anytime as you wish. Sister Chisomo, we are at you, Sister Chisomo. And yeah, Brother Carrington, so please, comrades, we are reading the paragraph highlighted in yellow. Take your time to read it slowly, understanding and process your thinking so that you can share with us what you think out of that paragraph. And what do you learn from it, or what do you take away from it, and what do you see it's telling us? So just feel free to take your time as you go along. I'll be calling the list. If you have something to say, feel free to say. If you have nothing to say, just let me know by saying pass, and I'll move to the next person. But we encourage everyone to share their thinking because everyone has ability to think. Sister Chisomo?
I'm going to pass. This is based on what we discussed last time about copyrighted philosophy from others and making it his own. And I was trying to find out about a bit more about him this morning. And a lot of people have criticized and think that he's not consistent. So I'll pass.
Okay, noted, sister. I'm not sure if I grasp what you're saying properly, but noted. We had.
Hold on, Brother PG.
Oh, Brother Kwame, yes, coming,
Yeah,
Brother Kwame.
what Stachizumo is saying is that since our discussion last week, she has researched Aristotle and found what we discussed to be correct, and that Aristotle is inconsistent. And that inconsistency is what we are reading here. You know.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. Thank you. Yeah.
So for instance, he says democracy, but at the same time, not everyone is equal. So that means some people will lack political rights. You know, some people have more right, you know, to be leaders, whereas others don't. So that is what Stachizumo is saying. Thank you.
And all that is a result of the fact that the material is not his own. And when you try to present other people's work, this is what happens.
Okay, thank you. So, Brother Simon, before you leave, are you able to share your thinking with us? What you've learned from this paragraph? What's your thinking here? If you are able, just before you leave, I know you've sent a notice that you're leaving.
Thank you, my brother. For now, since I'm just about to leave, I will not be able to explain much, but maybe I will listen for the next speaker, then I will leave to another meeting because the other meeting is starting in 5 minutes. Thank you, my brother. You can pass.
Thank you for attending the class. Thank you very much. Let's get to Sister Myra. Are you still not able to speak? Just let me know over the chat. If you're able, unmute yourself and share your thinking with us, Sister Myra. If no, I'll take a sister. I'll go to Sister Jerotich. Sister Jerotich, share your thinking with us on this paragraph. From Sister Jerotich, I'll be going to Sir Windop, then Patelikile. So, Sister Jerotich.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity. So my view on this first paragraph is I'm going to get out of the book a little bit. It's more of the application of this school of thought and the impact it has in the world today and historically and specifically to Black people. So if you look at just this thinking that others are more superior than others, more specifically, the white people are more superior than the rest of the world. That's the thinking that is being sold here. And this thinking has been applied, I mean, from the beginning of the Western civilization, I think, to today. To today, as we are still talking, we still have this thinking still running our African nations. If you narrow down to particular disciplines within, let's say, academia, for example, you find that anthropology is a discipline that is purely based on lies, especially anthropology, that is the African anthropology done by the West. It's purely, I think it's the academia that contains the most lies collected and accepted to the point that it's become a truth. But if you look at, if you review it, I mean, today, if you look at anthropology of Africa, for example, it keeps unearthing itself. But at the beginning of studying Africa by the West now, it was considered as, truth, like solid truth. So I find it anthropology as a course or a line in academia that is purely based on this principle of others being better than others.
Sister Jerotich, sorry for cutting you short. Apart from the whites, either as you said, being superior than the blacks, don't you think that also in the black society as we are, there are also some black who are more superior than others? That notion, is it really practical in our society today, or do we only see that inferiority or superiority only on races? Is it not in our society? Hello, Sister Jerotich. Please proceed.
Yes.
Yeah, proceed.
It is very, very present as well. But I think I would say the superiority between whites and other races is more dominant and has more effect as compared to, let me say, a more not interracial, within a race contains superiority, but it is there. It still exists. Even today in Africa, we still have that form of superiority.
Okay, proceed with the sharing your thinking, sister.
Can I come in there?
Yes, Brother Penny.
Why Sajero teaches on this? Can anyone tell me which African culture regards other Africans as animals?
Yeah.
We are talking about superiority, inferiority. So do we know of any African culture in which another set of Africans are regarded inherently as not human beings, but as animals? Because that is what we are talking about here.
Brother Carrington, you seem to have an answer.
Not an answer, but a lesson. The one time I know was the Rwanda situation where they said they were going to clean the insects, and we know what that brought us.
All right, thank you.
Sister Jerotich, do you seem also to have a response to Brother Kwame? Please, I see your hand is up.
I just want to try. I don't know if I'll be close to the answer, but the wordings of the people of, is it called North Sudan? Sudan and Southern Sudan, meaning the Arab Sudans and the Black Sudan. It may not really come out as an animal exactly, but I think that is close. And also the reference of the pygmies of the Congo. I think they are referred to as almost close to animals.
Okay. I see two hands are up. Brother Glenda, I think Brother Kwame, we elicited some discussion unless you want to end it.
Yeah. I wanted can I? Yeah, sorry, brother.
Well, just to say, the current situation in Southern Africa, Tanzania, can be put in that category. And as our sister said, the Janjaweed behavior in Sudan could also be considered in that category. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Glory. Brother Penny.
Yes.
Sister Window hand is up. Are you exhausted?
Yeah, hold on. So Brother Carrington came back and said that the Rwandese situation where Africans were regarded as cockroaches and insects, and that is an example of Africans regarding other Africans as animals. Are we all aware of where that came from? Because the Rwandans are all one people. Just like the Somalis, the Somalians are also one people. So the Rwandans are one people. They speak one language. They come from the same family tree. So when did a part of them become animals and cockroaches and insects? Are we all aware of the French origin of that kind of colonial mindset? So my question is, are we saying that was African, or was it what we are reading here being imported by Europeans into African culture? That is my question for all of us. Thank you.
Brother Glenn, I'll take you and Sister Gertrude, then we proceed. Brother Glenn?
Yes, sorry, I may have misunderstood. I didn't think we were presenting facts. We were presenting perception and the successful creation of a perception, whether brought in by external, and most often it is an external philosophy. What we were saying, I hope, was that these perception had existed or did exist. So we're not trying to say they're correct. I don't know if that's been misunderstood. Thank you.
Thank you. Sister Ida?
I think that the fact that it was said by Africans, whether it was said because they'd learned it or they hadn't, it meant that they were also trying to teach other people the same sort of thoughts. So I hear you that, oh, it's learned behavior, but learned behavior is what's got everybody in this position in the first place, is what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Penny. Proceed.
Yeah, so no, thank you for that. So I think what both Brother Glenroy and Sister Ida have said are right. The question is that we are reading something that Aristotle has said. And what Aristotle has said is rooted in a particular culture, that is Greek culture, where some people did not work and had slaves, and the slaves did all the work, and they just attended to other things. And they did not believe in the equality of all human beings. And Aristotle was saying that the society is like an organism, say like a human body, if you like, or an animal body, if you like, and that organism, and if you know, in any organism, you have unlike the stem cell, where, as you know, initially when a human organism, or when any organism is developing initially, the cells are not differentiated. All the cells are the same. But as the organism develops from the embryonic stage onwards, then the cells begin to divide. And then there are cells that form the stomach, there are cells that form the heart, there are cells that form the feet, there are cells that form the brain, and so on. And so when the organism is properly developed, brain cells are brain cells. Brain cells cannot perform the function of the stomach lining, and the cells in the veins, in our veins, cannot perform other functions. So at that point, the structure is, if you like, solidified. That is what Aristotle believed. And what it means is that if you are the feet in the structure, you can never stop being the feet. You will always remain that which everybody works on. So in social structure, what it means is that if you are a dishwasher, you'll always remain a dishwasher. You can never go to school, study, university, transform yourself from being a dishwasher into a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever. Now, let's remember that that is the kind of belief that the British brought to West Africa. I'm sure they brought it to other places. Before Nkrumah came, his opponents believed that there were Africans who will never be doctors, who will never be lawyers. It is the book we are reading, Consensusism, and what came out of it is the basis on which it was believed after Nkrumah and under the CPP government that even if you're a kenke seller, those of you who don't know who kenke sellers are, kenke is a kind of food that is sold in Ghana, and it is sold by women mainly, and usually it's very cheap, and it's like a staple food, and the poorest eat it, rich people eat it as well, but the poorest really eat it. Now, if you're a kenke seller, it just means you have no role in society. You are, if you like, in Western terms, you're one of the working class. In fact, you are at the lowest part of the working class, and the belief was that your children will never be doctors, will never be lawyers. In other words, there was no social progression. This it was the CPP government and consensusism that overturned that, and then free education was made available, and then we saw how ordinary citizens, ordinary people, those who were believed to be veranda boys and girls, could then also rise through the social hierarchy and then become today the president of Ghana, or they also want to also be presidents of Ghana, come from a part of Ghana where it was believed that they could never be heads of state. So going back, I'm just trying to say that what Aristotle believed, that kind of solidified structure, I don't think that is something that we subscribe to, not as because we are consensusism, but modern political theory does not accept that society is so structured that there can be no social progression. We all know that in reality that does happen. In other words, other groups are suppressed, other groups are vilified, other groups are blamed for this and that, but nobody openly says that because you are this or that, you cannot rise. Yes, they will put impediments in your place and so on. Sometimes the glass ceiling is shattered, like now we have Kemi Badenoch, who is the first black female leader of the Conservative Party in England. This, you will agree with me, 10 years ago, nobody would have thought that this was even possible. So these things do happen. So I think that we need to be mindful of where Aristotle is coming from and what he is really saying. And I don't think anyone here agrees with that. Finally, let's remember this: we are not saying that people can learn bad behavior. That's not what we are saying. Of course, people can do. The question is, if you look within African culture, and here I mean African culture, as Brother Koko has tried to explain, do we see in there the fundamental belief that Africans are animals? I mean, are we saying that is the case? Because as an African, I haven't seen it. Maybe in other parts of Africa there is. But in my culture, when you are called an animal, it's an insult. We don't have that in our culture, that somehow I am human and you are subhuman. It is not there in African culture, as far as I know. If it is there, you can share it with us. However, what we are saying is that in modern political theory, consensusism is saying that we don't, even if that was the case, we don't accept it, because all of us are equal. Even the child who is born disabled is also a human being and must be treated as a human being. Thank you.
May I come in, please?
Thank you, Brother
May I come in?
Who is this, please?
May I come in?
Who is this, please?
It's Prince.
This is Executive Director of Kwame Nkrumah Ideological Institute.
Oh, okay, Prince, feel most welcome, and please comment to Brother Kwame if you want, but also please comment to the text. Brother Prince, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much, the organizers and the other fellow Africans. looking at Aristotle's belief, to an extent, I think he is, or he was correct, because even in our African society, we, despite the fact that we have that cohesion and that principle that you can grow from one level to another, we still believe that individuals have different roles to play for the society to grow or stay together. This means that if you want to come in the sense of politics or democracy, not everybody has the knowledge to decide what is good for the people. We must agree to that, and we can see that even our sister, Professor Dambisa Moyo, also advocating that
But
citizens,
Brother Prince,
yeah,
just sorry to cut you,
okay,
but in that context, in the line of thought you're moving with, does it mean that differentiation in the division of labor that one performs in a society, for example, even in a society, there are those who are either farmers, those who are doctors, those who are teachers, those who are the council of elders, and those who are either any other role that they play. In sexes, there are those who are women and those who are men. There are those who are children and those who are old. Do you think these divisions then showed some level of inferiority? Or do you think that the virtue that one became a farmer and another doctor then meant that the farmer was inferior than the doctor? In that line of thought?
No, there is no inferiority complex in any of this, because you are a master in your own section. All we need to do is to appreciate everybody in their field. For example, let's say a soldier might not be good in farming, but a farmer will be good in farming and not be good in fighting. But then the farmers produce the food that the soldier will need to eat, and the soldier will have to protect the farmer to produce the food. So what we are saying is that in a society, we all have to recognize the importance of everybody. It doesn't mean that if you are a soldier, you are more superior to a farmer. No, this is where people misunderstand the structure. But if you understand the structure, that everybody contributes to the unity, to the progress of the society, as you can see in the Chinese parliament, for example, all the professions are represented. The farmers are there, the teachers are there, the lawyers are there, doctors are there, all the professions are there in the parliament. This makes it for them to contribute based on their experience, based on their profession. And then it's almost the same thing that the Thai were looking for. Because when you ask people in a village, for example, to choose between, say, Baumia and Mahama, people who don't know them, people who don't even know about what are the policies, people who don't know what they stand for, people who have never even heard anything about them, what are you asking them to do? It's like asking children to choose who is a better teacher. What do they know to make that choice? So this means that in a good democracy, people should have a certain level of restriction based on their knowledge of what they are deciding on. Because when you go to the village, even in our villages, not everybody is part of the council. Not everybody is consulted in everything. There are people who will be consulted for a particular thing, but when it comes to another thing, they won't be consulted because they have no knowledge about that. This is common. I don't know in Ghana or in other African countries, but I know that in Nigeria, in Cameroon, in Congo, Equatorial Guinea, this is what obtains.
But Brother Prince,
yeah.
Now back to the text. What do you think Aristotle is advocating for when you said he was right? in explanation of what you have said, in terms that when one is a master in farming and everything else, doesn't mean they are inferior. Aristotle is using inferiority, calling it natural inferiority. What do you think then Aristotle is talking in regards to that?
So that's what I'm saying, that to an extent, I agree with him to the extent that people should not be the same in everything in the society. Like different people having different position in the society, but it doesn't mean that they are inferior to the others. They are not inferior, but it's just that the society is divided. People have different roles. Do you get my point?
Thank you. But then, hence, you've talked of the coming election in Ghana, where I think there's one sister and a brother who are going for the top leadership. Aristotle is talking on, there's a paragraph saying Aristotle criticizes neither the inequality of sexes nor the exploitation of slave labor. We saw a recent election in US where there was a woman and a man in terms of gender. There's an election upcoming in Ghana where there's a man and a woman. Do you think that the people of those communities or in that society, in that country, do they view both these people as equal, or do they take their gender each as being some level of an inequality and they feel that a man is more capable than a woman? How do you read it, that in your thinking?
Based on different cultures, like we have the patriarchia and the matriarchia, which we know that personally, I don't believe that a woman can lord over the men, not because they are not capable, but because physiologically they are different. They are not meant to be at that top level. It's not that they cannot learn to be at that top level, but because of their physiology, the way they are created, they are not meant for that role. That role is not for them. Yeah.
So you support that based on biological setup and not social conditions, because I'll call it social conditions. But it's okay. Brother, if you want to come in, just coming, but Brother, please proceed so that I go to the next person.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. So what Brother Prince, Brother Prince is saying in a way is contradicting what Aristotle is saying. So Brother Prince is saying that he agrees with Aristotle to some extent, but in terms of what he has shared with us, he actually disagrees with Aristotle, and maybe Prince needs some time to read the text again and see what Aristotle is saying. Aristotle is not saying that that the division of labor is Ghana or of Ethiopia or anything. What Aristotle is saying is that human beings are inherently unequal. And if you take a radical version of that today, that is like the Israelis saying that the Palestinians are animals and that they are not human beings. In other words, the dehumanization of other human beings is the question here. And from what Prince has shared, he does not agree that human beings should be dehumanized. So that, I think we are all agreed on that.
Yes,
but
exactly.
The other
that
question about
human being, we are equal in the sense that we are equal but different.
In the sense that we are all human beings.
Rules.
Yeah.
There's no subhuman.
Yes.
It's just that the
so
person
in
making that decision should be able to recognize the skill of this particular person.
Precisely.
In the society.
So in consensus Prince, the position of consensus is that we are all equal as human beings because we come from the same matter. So if you look at every human being, they are made up of water, hydrogen, oxygen, whatever. So in that sense, we're all equal. But when it comes to Western ideology, taking from what Aristotle is saying here, they are saying something different. They are saying that there are human beings that are not human beings, that they are less than humans.
I got that.
Let me add another example that we may all have heard of or not heard of. Are we all familiar with a lady called Eva Umagomi? Are we all familiar with her? She used to work for then Prince Charles, now King Charles. Are we all familiar with that lady? Okay. If you don't know the story briefly is that, to cut a long story short, she wanted to rise in the hierarchy, and the prince said, then Prince, now King Charles, said that she did not know her place, and that she was, and these were his words, she was rising above her station. Right? So conservative society inherently believe that there are, if you are a certain human being, whether it's by gender or by color or whatever, that there are certain roles you cannot hold. So similar to what Prince said, he didn't believe that women should hold certain roles. That happened to be a cultural position. But there is another culture in Africa also, which is the Ghana culture, which Sister Ida comes from. That culture, in terms of priesthood, basically takes the same position as GAC does, which is that there must be both male and female holding a position in equality. It does not believe that the woman is inferior to the man, and so on. Now, if it comes to the question of, and I will end with this, by the way, if it comes to the question of our natural composition, I don't know of any man who has given birth. All of us here, men,
Correct.
were born by women. So if anything, we should be according women the highest respect. And as you know, there are those who believe that God is a woman anyway, and that God is not a man. And this idea that God is a man has been imposed on us through Western patriarchy and their desire to dominate women and to dominate everyone else. I'll stop there for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to Prince to finish his thought or line of thought, but just to remind also as pickup is, if there's no way an inferior being in a society as perceived can give birth to a superior being. If we are all product of women, there's no way we can be superior than women. But anyway, that's out of discussion again. So, but Prince, please continue and finish your line of thought. Then I go to the next person.
Yes. To make someone a slave because of either the color or from where they come from, that is wrong. Slavery is wrong. No human being should be made a slave. That one, personally, I totally reject that. And in the culture, in the part of Africa where I come from, we never did that. Yes. People's right, like prisoners' right, were restricted, but not exploited. You see? So for Aristotle to say that, oh, some people can become slave because they are kind of like subhuman and so on, that I totally disagree with him. And in my society, people are allowed to grow. So it means that you can change your status in the society. There are people from, let's say, from a very poor background who went to school, became knowledgeable, wise, and then they are involved in the decision making of the society. So that gives us that position that you can grow if you work hard. While we take care of everybody in the community. We know people have different roles to play in the community, but then if you work hard, you can change your position. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Prince. And it's a pleasure for you to join us today. I know you're a member of our broadcast list, but thank you to see you once again in our class. You're most welcome anytime.
Thank you.
Brother Papa, I know your hand is up, but please allow me to go to Brother Sawin, then I can come to you. Unless it's very burning and it can burn the room. Okay, yes always means it's not that burning, so we should not be afraid of it. Sarinda, please share your thinking.
Greetings to you all.
Yes, sir.
Now, I'm completely lost. You say we are all equal, but does the society in general share that notion that we are equal?
Which
Because
society?
in my country, when you see a minister, human society. In my country, when you see...
Yeah, proceed. Proceed.
Can I proceed?
Please proceed. Sorry for interrupting.
Okay. In my society, when you see a minister approaching, you start shaking because you think he's more superior to that. He's more superior to you even.
So you think, no, sir, you've said because you think. So his superiority is coming from your thought. But does that mean it is real?
Come again?
You say that in your country, when you see a minister coming, you start shaking and you because you think is more superior. The word is you think. So do your thoughts become really reality? But the fact that you think is more superior, then he is superior. Or that is just thought and perception.
You are breaking a little bit. I can't get you clearly.
Okay, proceed. I was just coming in to say that in your society, sir, you say that when somebody sees a minister, they start shaking or trembling because they think that he is more superior. Now the question is, do you think because they think that the minister is more superior, it is true that the minister is more superior than them? And did that then inform the society thinking, as you say, the human society?
I was just mentioning that in passing. I didn't get what you were saying completely because your mic somehow to me is making a big echo. But I was just mentioning that in passing. What I wanted to say, what I wanted to comment on, in fact, you have also mentioned the case of the Israelis, but that is not African, where Israelis are dehumanizing the Palestinians and the people from Gaza. That's the moment that I raised my hand, but luckily you mentioned it. But in Africa, I can't think of such an example. But as to the reading that we have, I wanted to read a sentence here. Aristotle enjoined his fellow countrymen not to enslave Greeks, but only an inferior race with less spirit. Can somebody help me? The inferior race, is it any other race apart from Greeks, like Chinese, like British, or is it with specific reference to Africans?
Yeah, okay, let me answer that question. So our concept of race today is not a concept that existed in their time. Color-based racism is not an old position. It is a recent phenomenon of European expansionism. So let's bear that in mind. Yeah. So the answer to your question is, you can read that as all native peoples. So as long as you are not Greek, and let's remember that Greek, in terms of color, not all Greeks. Sometimes when we say Greeks, we think it's white people. Yeah, there's no such thing. Before I say that,
Greek society was made up of all colors of people. Okay, so for instance, the writer of the book called The Elements, he has a Greek name, Euclid. But Euclid was an African. He lived in Alexandria. He was born there and he died there. And he wrote the book called The Elements, which, as you know, is the mathematics textbook that the world had for 2,000 years before new geometries were invented. Right? So when we say Greek, don't read it as black, as white people. That's not what it means. So let's bear that in mind. Also, mythologically, the Greeks have said, this is not somebody said, the Greeks themselves have said that they were civilized by Africans coming from the continent, crossing the Mediterranean and coming to civilize them, because some of them were eating raw meat. They didn't know how to cook food. They didn't know how to live like humans. Basically, they weren't civilized. It was the Africans called Danaeans and others who came and civilized them. So the Greeks themselves, this is the problem. The Greeks themselves, in their writings, if you look at Herodotus, Isocrates, Thales, Pythagoras, if you look at them, they themselves have said that the Africans taught us this, the Africans taught us that. But then when these things came into the hand of racists and racist scholars, then they started denying what the Greeks themselves have said. You understand? And that's the problem. So, brother, to answer your question, don't interpret Greek there as white, and all races just means different ethnicities of the world. As you know, there's only one human race. Yeah, there is no different human race. There is only one human race. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I wanted to say something else, but it just escaped me. When it comes, I will share. Thank you.
Yeah, sir, please proceed, Sawindo. Proceed.
Yeah, I think my concern was answered. So anybody else rather than Greek could be enslaved. That's all I had to comment.
Yeah, and brother, I wanted to come and support you into what you said earlier. You said that as a social construct, I know Brother Pigeon asked if that is mental, but I think the point you were making was that there's a social construct where when ordinary people see ministers, they see them as kind of big men. We call them big men, or big men, big shots, and somehow they are different from us. And that's the point you were making. Now, it turns out also that in your part of the world, that is, I'm talking about Zimbabwe, Namibia, down to South Africa, it was believed, so we are told, that the Africans saw Europeans as superior to them. And the Europeans who came and settled, the settlers, the settler colonialists, treated the Africans as inferior to them. And this idea that the Africans are inferior to them, as you know, in terms of their security, the way the police and others worked, they humiliated adults in front of children. So a white policeman will come to your house and treat your father a way in which, as a child, you are looking and you are thinking, no, you can't treat my father like that. That's not right. So it is these children, if Brother Sam is here, he can correlate what I'm saying. It is these children who later on rebelled against apartheid in the Soweto riots, what became the Soweto riots, because they said, no, we are not accepting this. And we also are not accepting the fact that you are Zulu, you are Xhosa, you are this. No, we are all South Africans. And then they went out as one group of children. And as you know, the police started shooting them. And it became the 1976 Soweto riots. And our Nigerian brother wrote that song, Fire in Soweto, which you remember inspired us young men at the time when that song was released. So, brother, I'm just backing what you said, that sometimes these are social constructs that permeate society. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. So,
And how
please.
and how do we harmonize, or how do we breach that societal perception?
Conscientism.
Consciences.
Conscientism. What you are reading now. This philosophy and ideology is the answer, is the antidote.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any other further thoughts that you want to share with us?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, thank you. Brother Coco, I'll move to Brother Carrington after you share your thought with us. Thank you for being patient.
Thank you, brother. You are right. I was burning. Maybe you did well by passing me and coming back to me. But now that my brother Windhoek has raised something, let me start by addressing that. You see, human beings, we are built with fear. We all have fear in us. It's part of our physiology, or whatever you call it. It comes from, it's a biologic trigger to help us avoid danger. But what the white man has done is to create that, to block us, to block the higher level brain, the higher thinking brain. And what you just explained there is that the common man is now afraid of the minister, because the minister is now occupying the place which used to be reserved for white people. So that is the reason why it's happening. We come from the same area, you and me. I come from Lesotho. And from Lesotho, what was happening is we practice egalitarianism in its purest form. By in its purest form, I mean every man could sit in a court with the king or with the chief and correct the chief and tell the chief that this is how it has to work. So there was no one who was scared of the chief. There was no one who was scared of the indunas, or the ministers, as you call them at that time, the advisors to the king. They were part of us. So there is this element here again, which I posted in my status. If you're on WhatsApp, you will find it, in that the church has taken Jesus Christ and put him as the key to heaven. And by holding that key, the church holds the utmost power. And then the white man came to us holding that key. Hence, the black man is still in awe. The black man is still scared of any kind of power. But power rests with the people. Let me just leave it there. Then I need to go to my brother Prince to say, I think,
Brother Coco, do you really believe that they are afraid? When they saw in the Bible and they go and steal state funds.
They use that to enrich themselves, but the majority, the masses, are still scared. They are now being used. I mean, it is being used on those who are scared, the people who don't know how this works. Let's not forget, we said the religion is being used to uphold the politics, and politicians depend on the religious. There is that secular dependency between them. All right.
But Coco, is the same other people, after they leave church, go to the big man's house to eat food.
May I come in?
No, let me allow Brother Coco to finish his points.
Okay, so if I'm allowed to finish, then I need to remind my brother Prince that the women, our mothers, our queens, they are entitled to anything, any role or anything that a man can do. And nothing, no physiological weakness can stop them in doing that.
So good
I
of
don't
you to
know.
tell us.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's important that we make that clear. My daughters can do anything that the men can do. And
Okay.
no Aristotle is going to tell me that the women are inferior, or anyone is inferior to anyone. No one is inferior to anyone. It's that important. That's what we are trying to teach here in conscientism, that all men are equal, and there's only one human. There's only one human race. That's what Dr. Nkrumah teaches too. So again, I think I've addressed the fact that in my village, everyone was equal. But what they have done here with this forced democracy, or this forced democracy which they are practicing, is they are giving you two choices. They're giving you two choices of Mahama or Baumia. That's not how it worked before. What you have to do is you choose your own representatives in the village, and the village people will know who can serve their interests the best. So what you're quoting is based on this modern European false sense of democracy. That's why. All right. Let me just leave it there. Thank you.
Brother Carrington is burning. But let me read the mood in the room first. Let me see around. Brother Prince, you want to come in very quickly? Because I'm moving to Brother Carrington.
Okay.
Okay. Just go ahead, please, quickly, and then I go to Brother Carrington.
Yes.
Let's try to, as even continue furthering the discussion, let's try to route it to the paragraph as well. Brother Prince, just proceed.
Okay. It seems you guys have misunderstood me. I'm not saying that women are inferior to men. I'm not saying that women cannot do what men can do. I'm saying that in a society that involves men and women cannot be the supreme of that society because of their physiology, because of their anatomy. We can talk about this 100 times, but we know it very well. It's a fact. Majority of African society do not allow this. That is one. Then secondly, in the part of Africa where I come from, we are not afraid of ministers. We are not afraid of the big men. We respect them because they represent part of the power of the community. If you are appointed the chief, despite your status in the society, we respect that position. You are the minister, we respect that office. It's not that individual. From the part I come from, we are not afraid of these people. We respect them and respect their position. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Permit me to bring Brother Carrington to provide some physics to this conversation. Brother Carrington, please come in with the science. And science, science, they say is facts. It's not perception. So please come in.
No. I have very little physics to offer today, but so I have it also implies indirectly that I have a little bit of opinions, but history is also fact. I would like to start directly with the question of women leadership, which is actually addressed in the last part of the paragraph. Aristotle criticized neither the inequality of the sexes nor the exploitation of slave labor. Brothers and sisters, the problem with Africa is that it will always defy your expectations. Because there have been human societies of different types in Africa for 300,000 years. So any social experiment that has been carried out by human beings of how to organize society is in Africa by definition.
Correct.
Now, this thing of women, the question of women leadership, or even leadership of society. Africa has run all sorts of experiments here. In fact, to history, to just memory, recent memory, I would speak of, for example, Yaa Ashantewa in Ghana, who literally berated the elders and told them, if you people cannot go and fight the British, remove your governments, give them to us, and we will go fight the British ourselves. Brother Kwame can correct me. Mekatilili wamenza in Kenya. In South Africa, I'm just forgetting. Everywhere you look at certain points of time, there are women and women leading ferociously. And in Kenya, it's not just one, it's like several. Now, we can choose to say majority, but you would have to quantify. And you would have to tell me, for example, where the oldest societies, the Khoikhoi and the San, fit in your model. So these societies have been living for 300,000 years. The women are allowed to divorce the men. The men are allowed to divorce the women. And boredom, this man is boring, this man is violent, is enough of a reason for a woman to divorce a man in that society. Now you have to explain that. This society refuses any direct leadership by either man or woman. You have to explain that. When we say in Africa, we used to do it, this and this and this. I would urge you to just resist committing to a specific model of the way African societies are organized. Like, for example, the Kikuyu did not have an overt political leader. They were like the Roman Republic before it became an empire under the emperors. I would ask us to really resist committing to this idea of the patriarchy. The question of the patriarchy, and there's a lot of literature on this, in Africa is very, very complicated. So that is an interesting point, I thought. Now let's go upward.
Brother Carrington,
Yes.
I will not move the screen to the next paragraph. You are reading this paragraph. Unless it's not clear for you, I can expand it.
Yes. The Aristotle paragraph, right?
Yes. Not the second paragraph of according to.
Yes.
It's only
Yes.
that paragraph of
The
Aristotle.
Aristotle
So
paragraph. Yes, that is exactly what that's why I mentioned the question of the inequality of sexes.
Okay.
Sometimes we take Greek societies which rot, like Greek, roughly the northern Muslim societies, and we project their views on African societies, ancient African societies. The story is much, much more complicated than that. And even modern anthropologists can point this out, that patriarchy, matriarchy has to be used very, very carefully when you're talking about ancient African societies and any old societies, by the way. Now, Aristotle is making a very simple claim that, and we've talked about this in the previous 2 pages, I'll just go through quickly, that because there is a special class of people who have access to the truth, right? Not everybody has equal access to the truth. For mental, physical reasons, not everyone has access to the truth. Basically, the young man or the old man who are likely to be rational and wise are the people who have access to the truth. These are the class of people for whom democracy can work best. You have to remember that Plato before him has said something like, when you popularize democracy and give it to everyone, everyone has a voice, what is likely to happen is mob rule, chaos, disorder, and anarchy. So Aristotle is building on this and saying, this is because we don't have equal access to the truth. And if you don't have equal access to objective truth, then it means only this specific class of people can be allowed to discuss in the agora the events of the day, the events of the city-state, and then take decisions by voting. And this class of people is mostly working men and old men. And then they try to rationalize after that. Women, because of this and this and this, cannot philosophize. Because they cannot philosophize, they cannot participate in democracy, something like that. Slaves are biologically inferior or naturally inferior because they can't think about complicated things, which, by the way, Socrates has demonstrated that is not the case. Nonetheless, philosophers, sociologists, scientists sometimes assert their version of the truth to reality, and this is what is happening here. So he is trying to justify the social inequality he is seeing. Remember, we talked about philosophy to policy. Now this is policy to philosophy, i.e., I am seeing my society practicing this policy. This is the philosophical reason why, you see. And both of these actions must be handled very carefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Brother Kwame, do you want to come in?
Yes, but we thank our resident physicist. He said he wasn't talking about physics, but all I heard is physics from him. So basically, no, what all our brother Carrington has said is endorsed by the class. And in terms of the variety of social groupings and experiments, I think that is something he has mentioned. That is also the position of academia, that whatever you want to tell us, it has been practiced in Africa before. The idea that women can't be soldiers, well, in my part of Ghana, because that's where I come from, the Amazonian women of Dahomey, now Benin, those women, as you know, that's where I come from. They were soldiers, and only the French were able to defeat them. So the idea that women can be soldiers is denied by history. The idea that a woman cannot be supreme, as Brother Prince is saying, again, is denied by the Akan tradition, where a woman was also the holder of what is called the Ashanti stool, the dangerous stool. The dangerous stool. You know, the dangerous people believe they came from ancient Egypt, and that stool, the dangerous stool, is higher than the Ashanti stool, and that stool was occupied by a woman. So the idea that a woman can be supreme again is denied by the African experience. The other thing also is that if you come to priesthood, I've given the example of the Ghana people. They call God Atana Nyongo, meaning God who is both male and female. They don't believe that God is a man. They believe God is both a man and a woman. Dr. Kumoji, he studied in Cologne University in Germany. As you know, my language is taught in German universities. And the Cologne University, he wrote a thesis that was regarded as original, and he showed a few things. And one of the things he showed is what I want to mention, which is that long before the domination of women became, shall I say, acceptable in African society, women had all the rights. As men today think they have. In fact, in ancient Egypt, before the libraries were destroyed, the daughter of Apollonius, if I recall correctly, was almost like the head of the library, and she, as you know, was killed by the mob, as they say, and so on. But the point is that they had all the right. It was the Romans that changed the law so that women could not inherit property. Women can't do this. Women can't do that. That was all. When external cultures began to come to Africa and impose their laws on us, That is how women lost their role. Now, if you are interested in what I'm saying, I can share it with us. The other thing also I want to say is this. Let's remember something. There is no such thing as white people. Okay? We use the language white people. They don't exist. Okay? Those we are calling white people are what actually are what we call Caucasians. And they also have a variety. They could be Germanic and so on and so forth, or Frank and so on. Now, the whiteness, as an American researcher has shown, called Jacqueline Batalora. She's written a book, and we are familiar with that, which showed that whiteness was created in Virginia in the US. And it was created following the Baconian Revolution with Brother Kojo. Those of you who remember Brother Kojo, who used to be part of us, who set up our WhatsApp group, the initial WhatsApp group. Brother Kojo set it up. Maybe only Sister Ida and Brother Michael will remember him, because a lot of the old people are not here except myself. He brought to one of our classes information on the Baconian Revolution. And that revolution basically was when in America, black and white people combined together and revolted against domination by the English. And so the English in England here, where I am, and the settlers in Virginia, they then came up with this notion and created what is called whiteness. So whiteness is not a social, it's not a physical, it's not a biological thing. It's not biological, it's a social construct. So when we are talking about white people, let's also be mindful that it doesn't exist. There is a charter called the Even Charter, which is encouraging people to stop using that terminology of white people, white man, white woman. They don't exist. So I thought I should put that in. Because all these things, this notion of whiteness, where has it come from? As Sister Ida said, it's all coming from what we are reading. This is where it's all coming from these thieves like Aristotle, who went and stole our documents through Alexander the Great. He didn't understand some of the things he read, misrepresented our history, misrepresented some facts, and so on and so forth. Let me end there. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. You have actually educated me a bit in regards to the origin of whiteness and the rest that's being discussed about the color thing. I sometimes add that women used to rule the world until men decided to impregnate them so that they could be at home and men go out. I don't know whether it was a myth, a story, or a fact, but at the end of the day, that is it. I want to bring Brother Gleron to share his thinking, and I believe maybe can also share this aspect of slave and treatment of slave. We concentrated a bit on the sex, but there's also aspect of slave here that's standing in. I'm not saying that you, Brother Elder Glenn, you should comment on that, but feel free to share your thinking in regards to the paragraph.
Sorry, Brother Glenn, before you come in, Brother Pigeon.
Yes.
There's a contrary position to what you've just said, which is that initially there were only women, and women could get themselves pregnant, and it is the women who decided to separate men from themselves so that they can focus on giving birth and child rearing, so the men can go and bring in the resources they need. So it's the other way around. This is a position, and this is a position that there's a writer called George Bernard Shaw. He has written on this. Anyway, I just thought I should put that in. Thank you.
That's interesting. I'll let you read it. Brother Glenn, please come in. Sorry for keeping you waiting for that long. Elder Glenn? Then I'll go to Brother Kwame Gonza. Elder Glenn? I think he said he might be out of his desktop. I don't know if he's back. But let me then go to Kwame Gonza. I'll be able to have him back. Kwame Gonza? Brother Gonza?
Hello.
Yes, brother. How are you?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, and greetings to everyone and to the class.
Greetings, brother.
Yeah, for me, what I'm interested in, how does this apply to today? We've had the analysis by Aristotle. I think that Aristotle was, of course, talking about his time, as we said that some of the analysis are a product of the time which we are living in, which of course is the social construct of society that in that particular time. So there was slavery, and then there was masters and stuff like that. But even today, I think that you can translate this to the system in which we are operating. You have employers and employees on one side. So this can easily be translated even in the situation in which we are. And of course, the conversation that has been going on, raging on women and men, I think also that is very important in the sense that what Brother Prince is saying, it has some, it has some truth to it when you look at the physiological makeup of the women and the men is different, even though we are all humans, we are created humans. I think there is something which they normally say, we are the same, but with differentiated responsibilities. All right. So because of their physiological makeup, the men, they have certain responsibilities which are unique to them. But this does not mean that the women are lesser or the men are lesser in society. They just have different responsibilities, and this gives them their positions in society. But in all of African society, women have always had a position whereby they have a chance to lead. Society never closed them off like how you saw in other societies, like in Europe. Before anything of women leadership emerging in Europe, Africa had long had leaders who are women for a very long time. So there was always a space for women to move up the ladder and even take on leadership, whether it's in military, whether it's being queens and stuff like that. And of course, the Europeans and the Arabs invaded the continent, and they brought in their way of thinking, which of course to a certain extent led to the suppression of this power of women or this society. They deconstructed this society from continuing how it was organized, whereby women could come up and then lead in society. But this does not take away the fact that the men, they are built, how they are built, of course, they are built for war and aggressive activities, kind of aggressive activities. And the women as nurturers or protectors of society in a way that, nature of society, in a way that they help the continuation of society, were always, reserved for those soft activities, which will help, to continue to nurture the young ones and, bring a balance to society. But as I said, those aggressive women or, women who have certain abilities and they wanted to always rise to society and lead it, they always had a chance to, to lead society. So I think that going forward, this is the approach when we are looking at the future. I think this approach is very important if we look at societies like Rwanda, what they are doing over there, King Kagame is doing in Rwanda, because it is sort of has been existent in our society. It is easier even to implement in societies like Rwanda. There's no society where females have been brought into leadership like in Rwanda. Even when you look at the United States, it doesn't even compare to Rwanda. The number of women who are in government, the percentage, in percentage terms, even the United States, even in Europe, nowhere it has ever been achieved. So I think that going forward, if we are talking about building a new Africa, the women have to be central to that, but not because we pity them, but the competent ones have to be sought after to be put in those positions whereby they can be able to deliver results for society going forward, and not just because we are pitting them, but because they are competitive. They work side by side with men. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. Only having Brother Glory on my list who haven't spoken.
Can I say just two things?
Yeah, please proceed, Brother Kwame.
If we all know Brother Gonza very well, but we thank Brother Gonza for Brother Pigeon. Those of you who know the history, there was Brother Gonza, that was Brother Pigeon. So, Brother Gonza, good to see you again. Please join us more often. The second thing also I wanted to mention is that we talk about physiological differences, don't we? Men are built like this, like that, like that. Where were men built like that? Was it not in the womb of a woman? Huh? Was it not in the womb of a woman that whatever a man is, he got it from? It's from the womb of a woman. That's where the man was fashioned. So let's always remember that the woman is, if you like, the creator. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Brother Glory, I will post your laptop. I know Sister Marina's joining us now. Maybe she will have to say hi before I take it back to Brother Kwame. Comrade Patekile, you said you will be listening for today, hope so. But if you have something to say, please, because I'm closing. We are having 4 minutes to end. So, Brother Glenn, just to confirm once again if you're around. If you're not around, Comrade Patekile, do you want to say something, or are you still listening and maybe wish to join us next time? Continue this. Patekile? But I think you had said that. Sister Marlin, you are an old member of the class. Even though you've come late, I will allow you to say hi. But I also believe maybe 10 is confusing you for now. We are starting at 6 p.m. London time, not 7. Sister Marlin, just say hi to the class, please, if you are willing. Okay. That's having been said, Brother Kwame, I was not able to share my thinking as well, because I realized that I was joining the thinking of others, and probably I shared it in the process. But allow me to stay just in a minute that I think this aspect of Plato saying that some people are not allowed to enjoy democratic right or political right until they had until they were able to some level of whether truth. I think it's not true today, but of course, our countries today, so-called countries, have an age limit on when somebody can participate on political rights. The fact is that that age limit then do not discriminate gender or class of work. So a farmer is having 1 vote, same as a manager in an office. And therefore, their vote and their voice is same on that ballot. Even though maybe the farmer might not be the one to count the vote, but in terms of casting, they have the same right. And that right is not limited whether you dropped out of school or you proceeded to university or whatever. At the same time, both a farmer at the age of political participation is allowed to contest for any political position, irrespective of his financial or social structure in a society. But of course, the democratic process, which we have made, only favor people with money, because we, the society, want money from them and look it that way. But it doesn't mean that a farmer is not able to be a good leader just because he doesn't have money or because he's a farmer. And that do not mean that whoever is a doctor or a teacher or a professor is the best leader than a farmer. So this have actually been challenged in the current setup. And this goes to sexes. Our constitutions, for example, Kenya, do not limit any gender from contesting for any position. So we see many countries where women are allowed even to contest for presidencies, and they go for it. And women are allowed to vote. So then, this aspect of inferiority and slavery is not currently practiced as it was practiced in Greek. But then, the society still find a way on how one wants to make someone appear like a slave to them. But in reality, we are equal in terms of our social structure and because we come from the same matter. No one comes from a different matter. It's the same matter that we come from. So that's where I would like to end my contribution for today. Back to you, Brother Kwame, before I make the announcements.
Yes. So, you see, what we are talking about here is scientific. And if it's not, we have our resident physicist that will correct us. And nobody here will tell me that they have seen a cat give birth to a dog, or that they have seen a dog give birth to a tiger. Yeah. So what does it mean? So it means biologically that however strong a man is, however powerful a man is physiologically, you know, it is because within the man are the biological basis to be strong and to have that physiology. And where was that fashioned? I'm repeating this again to make it clear to us that we need ourselves to give up certain learned notions that are not in line with the position of consensusism that all humans are equal. Okay, so that man who is so strong that he has to live, where did he get his physiological structure from? Was it not in the woman's womb? So that means that if you think a woman is weak, and that woman who you claim is weak has been able to give birth to a being that is so powerful, then you should know that that woman has a capacity to give birth to human beings, however big, tall, strong they are. So we are coming back to this notion that women and men are equal. It doesn't mean that men can give birth. No man can give birth. So when we say equality, it doesn't mean that we can all do the same things. Okay? It doesn't mean that we all have the same shoe size. So when we are talking about equality, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean we should all do the same job. There can only be one president. There can only be one chief. Or even if it's a council, there can only be so many people in the council, maybe not more than 11. Having said all that, at the end of the day, all human beings are equal because we all come from the same matter. That is why we are all equal. So let's remember that. And what Aristotle is saying here is to remind us of where Western philosophy and ideology is taking its inspiration from. And that is why Nkrumah is putting these things so that we will arm ourselves well. So I will stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brother Kwame. And thank you all who have joined us today. Indeed, next class will be more interesting because now we'll be looking at Aristotle and the state, as you can see it, and what is his thinking in regards to a state and everything else. So this is a continuation of our last class, and we will continue in the next class. If you are joining us for the first time, please feel free to get in touch with me, because I know some joined from various groups that I shared the link. Whoever I share the link is myself, so please get in touch with me so that I can add you to our broadcast list, and follow up our YouTube channel, because we have never failed to upload any of our sessions. We have over 170 something videos, which means anytime, anywhere, you can still catch up with us. You can still go and review whatever we did, and you can be able to share with anybody who asked or who didn't find time to join us. This Saturday, we are looking at the political economy of the continent, and we'll be having economic conversation on either economic unification in terms of currency or means of production. We might have Lumi discussion and other crypto discussion coming in, but we are looking at it from the unification angle. Do we have alternative economic unification? Because political and economic unification is very vital to the unification of Africa, and that's what we discuss every Saturday. So feel free to join us every Saturday. That will be from 6 p.m. London time or GMT. And I'll be able to share the link in advance. Next week, we continue from here. We also have our Swahili class, and the links are always shared to all. So thank you very much for your time once again, and may you have a lovely evening. Brother Gonza, I'm afraid we won't take any other comment for now, unless you have anything, but that's the end of our class. Brother Gonza? Maybe informal. Let me stop the recording. We don't have those informal sessions anyway. So